What's up, guys? I'm EJ, and I'm joined by Kendall. And thank you so much for checking out this edition of our virtual NBA Draft War Room. Today, we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Kendall, there's a lot of attention on Timberwolves this year, obviously because they had the number one pick in the draft. We want to make sure we did this video a little later in the process because we know obviously the number one pick, things are changing, things are moving. You want to kind of see where things land. But we're going to do our Timberwolves video now. Number one pick. They also have pick 17 and 33. So for a team that has two All-Stars on the roster with Cat and D'Angelo Russell, having the number one pick does add an interesting wrinkle to this organization.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, if you're Gerson Rosas, um, you have a bevy of assets right now. And I think that they're in a very interesting spot because, look, when they won the lottery, no one ever wants to not win the lottery. It's always better to have better value. It's just math. But with that being said, there were a lot of people like, yeah, I mean, you won the lottery, but, good luck picking out of these group of guys. It's like Cleveland back in 2013. But with that being said, because this draft is so as Leon Rose put it, there's a lot of equality in this draft. You now have the ability to maybe maneuver down as a possibility, and even if you don't maneuver down, or do you move it for a veteran? Because there's a team that right now the clock is ticking a little bit on the Cat and Russell project, which really we haven't really even seen yet, but still.
Yeah, it hasn't gotten off the ground.
Yeah, it hasn't gotten off the ground, and we're already like, all right, how long are we waiting before we blow this thing up? But the clock is ticking, and these guys don't want to. These guys don't want to wait. These guys want to win games. So, there is a conversation about do we move it for a veteran? I've changed my language from do you move the number one pick for a star to a veteran, because I don't know if you can get a star with the number one pick, which has to be discussed. But um, look, no, I think that this is definitely a very interesting pick. Obviously, they had Jared Culver last year, who I mean I loved. If you watch his YouTube channel, he was my number. I think my number one wing that we did last year. I think I had him at number one, ahead of, or maybe number two. Regardless, I had him ahead of RJ Barrett, and he struggled. Without a doubt. So it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back in year two, if he's even on the team, which we'll also see. But no, it's an interesting team nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, a team with two young stars and yet this sense of urgency to win, it, and then these assets, it kind of creates a very interesting mix in terms of where the direction will be. So let's get right into it. Let's dive into what the T-Wolves have this offseason. So, Minnesota Timberwolves, a record of 19 and 45. It was a putrid season. They had the second worst record in the Western Conference. Of course, Cat missed a lot of games this year, so some of that record you have to attribute to him not being in the lineup. Because of that terrible season, they did win the lottery, so they own pick number one, along with picks number 17 and 33. Team needs, can I put 3-point shooting? The T-Wolves, the T-Wolves are actually a really interesting, I'm going to try to not do a quick thing, but the T-Wolves are really an interesting case study for modern NBA analytic style of play not working with your roster. Because this team was third in field goal attempts, third in the amount of percentage of threes a team takes per game, but 28th in 3-point percentage. They were only middle of the pack when getting 3-pointers made. They were a terrible shooting team that took a lot of threes. So they bought into, Coach Saunders and that team. They bought into the kind of mechanism of taking a lot of threes and not settling for twos or.
Yeah, it's the Gerson
And
Rosas Rockets influence there.
yeah, and it just, they were not good at it. So I don't know. That's not going to change, I don't think. But that was just, when I saw those numbers, I thought they were quite stunning, considering how many threes they took. In terms of the rest of the team, front court depth in terms of needs, I thought it was also important. You know, even James Johnson will be back because he has a player option at 16 million, so there's no way he's getting rid of that. But Juan Hernan Gomez did not have a good year. He's a free agent. Jake Layman is the other guy playing in the front court. I think there were some signs from Naz Reid, but I think the jury's still out from him as a backup center to Cat. So they definitely need to improve their front court depth on that roster. And then, man, lead guards are a must on this team. Another, kind of look at the depth of the roster. I mean, they were playing Jared Culver at point guard for a lot of time last year because they just were so depleted. And so they had so little just bodies to play the point guard position. It's a very, very weirdly constructed team. So besides D'Angelo Russell, who we know has sometimes has had injury issues, they're going to need to have some more depth uh, at the point guard position as well. So free agents, I mentioned James Johnson with the player option, but I totally expect he'll be back. He actually played well for them last year, offensively and defensively. Evan Turner's a free agent. I mentioned Hernan Gomez. Malik Beasley averaged 20 points a game in those 14 games he was with them. He's a free agent. He did have a little bit of an off the field, off the court, arrest situation. So we'll see how that affects his free agency. Keelan Martin and Jordan McLaughlin, two-way deal guys. So as I said, Kendall, Gerson Rosas, Houston Rockets influence. He's gonna have a lot of, this is interesting, man. He's gonna be he has the key to the formative years of this era of T-Wolves basketball. Cat signed long term. Russell signed long term. The number one pick in the draft, and then multiple picks in the first round. I mean, if things go great, it's going to be because of him. If they don't go well, it's going to be because of him. So, Kendall, I'll let you go first
Yes.
on this one. Number one pick in the draft. Where are you going?
Okay, so if you've watched this series, any of our other videos, I feel like I've played it fairly safe. I haven't really gone too off the board. I've taken guys that I would take at those picks, but I haven't. I don't think I've done anything wrong. Wow. I think this is gonna be the first one where I think I'm going off the board a little bit. Someone that hasn't been in the conversation for the number one pick, to my knowledge, um, that I think the T-Wolves should go with. And now you can make the conversation maybe trade down. But again, this draft, what's weird about this draft is that trading down is going to be difficult because Ball, Edwards, and Wiseman, who are projected to be the top three picks in some sort of order, three of the top five certainly in some sort of order, aren't really they don't really fit many teams because they have to be in a particular situation for them to thrive. And a lot of those teams in that 4 to 7, 4 to 10 range don't really want to trade into that spot to get a guy that doesn't really fit their roster. So, it's going to be hard to trade down and find the ideal fit. I mean, the Knicks and the Pistons are two teams that do need guys like Ball, Wiseman, and Edwards. But, those teams, what do they have to give you? So that's going to be the conversation. To me, the guy I'm targeting, regardless of whether or not I'm willing to draft this guy at 1, is what I'll say. But the guy I'm targeting, if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, is your guy, Obi Toppin, at number 1. And he's not number 1 on my board. So it's a little bit runs in anti of most draft concepts, most draft theories. Draft, especially if you're at number 1, draft the best player available. What are you doing drafting a guy for fit? But this Minnesota Timberwolves team can't afford to take too big of a risk, knowing that, again, the Cat and Russell dynamic, we'll see how long that's able to last. Not necessarily because those two guys can't work together. I think they'll be fine. But whether or not they can win, whether or not those guys will be happy being, an average team in Minnesota. So they need to get a guy that they know can help them right away. I don't think that's LaMelo Ball. It could be Anthony Edwards, but I don't think Anthony Edwards' value works best in Minnesota because he needs to be a guy with shots. And I don't know if he's getting shots in Minnesota playing next to Towns and Russell. And then Wiseman has already said he doesn't want to be there. He hasn't said it, but the indications are he doesn't even want to be there. And I think the feeling has to be mutual that that's not the best fit probably. So to me, I look at that 4 spot and I think Obi Toppin, I think you made the case, maybe one of the most NBA ready players in this draft. I think we talked about it in our lottery preview that he's one of the most NBA ready players in this draft. So yes, he's a little older than the rest of these guys. Yes, he's a little older for your average sophomore, but he was the best player in college basketball last year. He gives them an extra offensive punch, but he's not a guy that I think needs to dominate the basketball. I think he gives them a mature, really good option from day one. You pair him with Culver along with Russell and Towns, and I think you've got 4 guys that I'm willing to go to war with in the Western Conference. You have to get other players, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Now, to me, I'm seeing if I could trade down, and the only option I'm looking at is look. I call Detroit and say, all right, Obi Toppin's still available at 7. I draft LaMelo Ball at 1, and I call Detroit. And I'm like, look, LaMelo talks about how much he wants to play in Detroit because his trainer is from Detroit, played for the Pistons. He's been working out in Detroit. Clearly, there's a love fest going on between Detroit and LaMelo Ball. You guys want him? Give us Luke Kennard and Obi Toppin and call it a day. And maybe you get more for them. But if you can't, I think that makes them a real team in the Western Conference if they bring in Luke Kennard along with uh, Obi Toppin. Luke Kennard's the guy they
Yeah.
tried to trade last year. So,
And look,
I
I
mean,
mean, if we're playing this, fantasy basketball, I mean, your starting lineup, Russell, Kennard, Culver, Toppin, and Towns makes a lot of sense. Just in
it's a
terms
lot
of
of offensive punch. Defense is a little
defense is
lacking,
the
but
issue because that and
yeah. And
that's
maybe
I guess
Kennard doesn't start, like, or
right, and
maybe Toppin
that's
doesn't start. You can mess around with that a little bit.
yeah, and
But
that's where I would. So this is tough because you guys know, and everybody who's probably watched the channel knows Obi Toppin, one of EJ's faves in this draft. I think he could be a star.
and then also you talk about the Rockets thing, now you can play that brand of basketball a little bit better. But
Yes, yes, because both those guys are good shooters. So this is a tough conundrum I have because I love Obi Toppin. I think he's one of the better players in this draft. If he became the best player in this draft, would not surprise me. I've sung his praises a bunch on this podcast and on the podcast and on this YouTube channel. Uh, if they picked him at 1, I'd be like, wow, that's really bold, but like I get it because as I said, I think that the front court depth is a disaster for the T Wolves. I mean, they're a disaster at the backcourt too. But to me, you tried out Layman and Hernan Gomez. Those guys are playing a lot of minutes for you. I mean, you have no chance. At least with Russell, okay, he got hurt and he didn't play a lot of his games, but you're assuming he's playing a lot of minutes. So okay, maybe you have to figure out. Maybe in free agency you get a backup who can come in. Maybe it's a DJ Augustine, someone who can come in and kind of fill that role that can help you out a little bit. But you can't fix I think what the issues they have in the front court. So that makes that interesting. I would definitely try to trade down. I don't think you have to draft Toppin at 1. I would try.
Is he getting past Cleveland? That's still the conversation I'm having in my mind. And
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
calling Cleveland
I
and say,
suggest
Cleveland,
Cleveland.
do you want the number? I mean, because I think Cleveland is itching to get one of these top-notch guys. Who everyone thinks are the top-notch guy. I'm putting that in quotation marks, people, because I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, you tell Cleveland, yo, you can get Wiseman.
But here's your shot to get Wiseman or Ball. One of these guys we know you want. I think they may bite. And if I get him at 4, I would gladly feel that.
Do you take
One
Kevin
just
Love?
feels like
I mean, if
you're
you're getting
about taking a
Toppin,
risk. I mean, taking off Toppin at 1 is still a risk. I think he's a great player, but this guy was not slated to go here. You're drafting him way ahead of his value. It's still a risk either way. My only argument in terms of on the court with Toppin is the front court defense with him and Towns is probably not going to be very good. It might not
you can
matter.
take the probably
It's
out.
similar to what I argue with Blake Griffin with the Pistons. I'm like, it might not matter because Toppin with Towns is serious offensive firepower. So Toppin was not my number 1 pick. I think it's an intriguing choice. I would prefer Anthony Edwards for the T-Wolves. Now, look, again, they have some major issues in the front court, and we'll talk about that 17 pick real quickly later in a couple minutes. But I will go with Edwards at 1. I think he slides right into the backcourt with Russell. I think the issues you have with the lead guards not having enough point guards, he can play a little bit of point. He can play a little combo for you. So I think the whole thing about is there enough shots? Well, at least now I'm going to play Russell 40 minutes a night because maybe I can get Edwards to run the offense for a lot long periods of time. So I think the shots will be there enough. He'll get plenty of shots on the second unit. And I think that the trio, and then you talk about having a much better defensive lineup. I think Edwards, both guys. I don't think Toppin's ever going to be a great defender. I don't know what Edwards is as a defender, but there's a chance he could be pretty good. So
yeah,
I would feel better about defense, especially when Russell is not a great defender either. I feel better about my defensive potential with Edwards in that starting lineup. So I think there's enough evidence for me to feel comfortable drafting Edwards. I don't hate the idea of drafting Toppin. I think he would be the only other guy I would really seriously consider. I don't think that Ball and Russell make any sense. And Wiseman, he's a center. So I don't know, unless you're trading Towns, I don't get why you would draft him.
It's like a calculator when you put in you put in an equation that doesn't make sense and you get the syntax. It's like, wait, two centers. It can't compute.
Yeah,
What?
it doesn't make any
In
sense.
today's NBA.
And Wiseman doesn't have any, like, he had the stretch ability of Wiseman is a question mark. Let's just say it that way. He there's evidence to suggest he will have some, but we don't know what that will really
He'll tell
result
you.
into. Right. We don't
He'll
know
tell
what
you
that's
he's
going
the next Durant or the next Giannis, and we'll see. He said that for years.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure that out. I'm not banking on that by drafting him and putting him next to Town. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
so I think I like the idea of Toppin.
Killian Hayes is another guy you have to think about, but the similarity to him and Russell,
I can't put him next to Russell.
it's bizarre. It just be like, what? Why do you have two guys that do the exact same thing, the exact same way? So
and Russell, while he played well next to Dinwiddie, LeVert, the Curry thing didn't work out that great. So it's
Russell is a high volume guy.
Yes.
Even in Brooklyn, his usage rate is.
I'll tell you what, Russell is one of the most. I think he's one of the most biggest question marks in the NBA in terms of what exactly his value is. Because to me, is he a real true all-star type point guard, or is he Reggie Jackson? Because Reggie Jackson, people forget. I mean, they clown him now, but Reggie Jackson, that year the Pistons made the playoffs, had a very, very good season, was a borderline all-star, and I think the way he was used and the numbers are very similar to what Russell is. Super high volume,
and
super high users rate.
That was Stan Van Gundy, right?
Yes, and everything ran through Jackson. And Russell played well in New Jersey. I mean, Brooklyn. He put up numbers in the places he was at. The teams were terrible, but he put up numbers in with the Warriors and with the T-Wolves. But is he a true star point guard? I don't know. I think that's a question. Real quickly, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, look, Russell was really. I mean, he was really lighting up the Meadowlands. Barclays. No. No, yeah.
I knew you were gonna kill me with that. I deserve that. It's fine. I knew you were gonna kill me with that.
Yeah, man. Him and DC in the front court, giving a lot of support. Derek Coleman. I mean.
You tell me Jonathan Petrovic not walking through that door, or Kenny Anderson not walking through that door.
Yeah, man. Exactly. So it'll be interesting. I think. I mean, is there who do you think you should look at 17 real quick? Give us a name.
Let's get at 17. Yeah, because we're running a little out of time. I have Jalen Smith as my guy because if I get Edwards at 1, it's okay. I need to figure out the front court situation. Though I did seriously consider a point guard. And the point guy I targeted was Tyrell Terry, and I know there are some people on YouTube channel going crazy. You got something about Tyrell Terry again. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on him, but I did.
I'm tired of talking about Tyrell Terry.
I did think about it because of 3-point shooting issues, and the fact they have no backup point. But Jalen Smith was my target there. I think he fits pretty well next to Towns. I know he leans more towards a 5, but he's very versatile offensively, and they could. Again, I'm not sold Naz Reid's your backup 5 even. So even if he's your starting 4 and he's your backup 5 too, I'm fine with that as well. I think Jalen Smith is one of the more underrated players in this draft. His skill set suggests that he's going to fit right in this new age NBA. So he was the guy I targeted at 17.
To me, if they're drafting someone like Edwards, I agree with you. Look, Edwards is the only other guy I'm drafting. I love Anthony. He's the number 1 guy on my board. So, I have no problem drafting the best player in the draft at number 1. And if you do draft someone like Edwards, if Precious Achiuwa is there at 17, which it seems like his stock's starting to slip a little bit, I'm snatching him right up. And you told me I'm leaving this draft with Edwards and Precious. That's a good draft. If he's not there, I think Isaiah Stewart.
I'm popping champagne if somehow Precious is there. I thought about him too. I think that these reports of him slipping, he won't slip that far, in my opinion. But that's me.
Yeah. And I think Isaiah Stewart's another guy I would look at from Washington at 17 if Precious isn't there. In the event that they do get Obi Toppin, I'm looking. Look, I think this point guard draft isn't that bad. I mean, look, you tell me LaMelo Ball. Is there an outcome where guys like R.J. Hampton or Theo Maledon are better than LaMelo or better than Tyrese Halliburton? I think there is. It's not likely, but there are outcomes like that, and because of that, I would look at either one of those guys. And if you told me I left this draft with Toppin and Hampton, one for just for one, I maybe don't feel as good as I do about Edwards and Precious, but I feel decent, especially if I'm able to trade down and get those guys. So, um, yeah, I mean, those are the guards I would look at 17, and I think that's a really good spot. And I like the depth of the guard position in this draft better than the forward. So, because of that, I'd almost be more inclined to draft someone like Toppin, knowing that at
Yeah.
17, I'm gonna get a point guard. It might be Kyra Lewis, it might be Nico Mannion,
Yeah.
it might be RJ Hampton, it might be Theo Maladon, it might be Tyrell Terry. There's so many guys. It might
Yeah.
be Cole Anthony, but I'm gonna get a point guard. At 17, I think Jalen Smith goes in the lottery, Precious Achua goes in the lottery. Now you got to reach for an Isaiah Stewart. You got to reach for a Paul Reed. Or you got to reach, or you got to hope that someone else falls. Sadiq Bey. Now is he the best fit? So it'll be interesting. Minnesota has a lot of options, and then the other thing we haven't talked about is they have 17 and 33. Do they trade in back into the lottery potentially? Like they they have a lot of assets,
Yeah.
and again, we didn't talk about trading out of it, but I don't think that there's a player out there they can get that's really going to help them. So I'd say, look, have fun with this draft, make some good picks if you're Gershon Rosas, trust your scouting department, and this team that could be in the playoffs next year or the year after.
What do you guys think the Minnesota Timberwolves should do with this pick? Kendall, bold prediction or bold suggestion going with Obi Toppin. I certainly love Obi Toppin. I wouldn't hate it though. I would try to trade down if I could, if I wanted to target him. Should they go chalk and go more with someone like Anthony Edwards? And what do you think about that 17th pick? They have a couple of needs they're gonna have to fill. So the 17th pick also gonna be important. Make sure you guys leave a comment what you guys think they should do. Also, make sure you guys, if you like this video, make sure you give us a like. And if you like more of this content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. Plenty more NBA draft videos coming up as we wrap up the Western Conference, and we're just a short time away from the NBA draft. So keep it locked in here. For Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.